Okay, well, again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this Mina's ecosystem update session. My name is Christine Yip. I lead the community efforts at Mina Foundation. And every few weeks, we organize a call where everyone can get updated about the things that have been happening in the last weeks. It's very exciting. So this time we have 5 speakers. I'd actually like to share my screen, but I cannot. John, could you perhaps help with sharing the screen and show everyone the slides?
Yes.
Yeah, so this week we have Owen Labs, Chainsafe, Ontab, Zero Knowledge Validator, and MinaCrypto.com sharing their work. I'm very excited to hear about everyone's work, so we'll start as soon as the slides are up. Let me also check the chat. Here we are. All right. Then we'll first go to O1 Labs. And anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat box in Zoom. And hopefully we'll have some time to get through it at the end. All right. Stage is all yours, Andrew.
Great. Thank you very much, Christine. So the O1 Labs team has been working on a variety of different work streams here. We've been chugging with Snaps and Snarky.js. We held an initial sort of workshop to share our design and our initial implementation with some community members and some people from other zero knowledge proof projects. And we got a lot of awesome feedback, and we're iterating on that in the coming weeks. We have some new progress on the GraphQL issues and the sort of general node unresponsiveness that people have been experiencing on the 1.2.0 releases. There's going to be a new package, 1.2.0 beta 4, coming shortly to include that feature. There's also been a roadmap that we're working on to sort of figure out how to address the remaining node stability issues and how to test them and work with them. And just a note here that we're aiming for a November launch of a testnet with the first version of Snaps enabled so that people can start ramping up and building their Snaps. That's it for O1 Labs.
Thanks, Andrew. That's super exciting. So in November, people can start playing around.
That's the idea.
Oh, cool. Thanks for that. And if anyone has any questions about snaps, then feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. Cool. And then next up is Chainsafe, Elizabeth.
Well, hello. Yeah, I'm from Chainsafe. We're working on the Rust implementation of Mina. If you ever heard about it. So since last time, we've completed our first milestone completely, which is the Serde implementation. Our Rust port of the bin prot library used by OCaml. So we're now able to fully deserialize a block, which is great. So that's fully done for now, which is good. And then since that, we've also been currently working on our second milestone, which is the chain selection algorithm. So we're continuing implementing the parts from the spec for that. We've also been working on auxiliary data structures that are needed for that, that aren't explicitly spec'd, but are used, such as the block tree, which is essentially a tree of all the forks on the network. And then also starting to look a little bit into the databases that we could use. We need it to be compatible with Rust and can compile into WASM as well, since we're going to be targeting the browser. So it also needs to be compatible with the browser environment. That's essentially it for now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's some great progress. if anyone wants to have some questions for Chainsafe or just wants to show their support for the work, feel free to also drop by in the Discord channel. It's called Chainsafe Rust Client. All right, then we'll go to the next one. I think the next one is Bizad from Ontab.
Sure. Yeah, excited to be here. It's my first time doing any of these community updates, so thanks for having us. Very quickly, we are working on the delegation program for the foundation and O1 Labs. So we're building tools for the foundation mainly to be able to keep track of the uptime data and also keep track of the payment obligation for the delegation program and follow up with the balances and keep track of the payments received. So in the nutshell, we are hosting the Uptime leaderboard. We're still working on that. So the current system is based on the sidecar data that we receive from the foundation. Can you go to the next slide? Or Christine, do I need you to? Yeah, click next. Okay, thank you. So basically, high level, the sidecar data, we can do a search based on the state hashes received from the block producer keys. We do a bit of a filtering for removing the duplicates, making sure the validity of the data, mainly by the block heights and the state hashes. And then we started scoring the sidecar data for the uptime calculation, and based on the score, we are going to list out the positions in the leaderboard, and the foundation would, as well as the O1 lab, would go ahead with the delegation to the top 120 nodes. And based on the top 120 nodes, we start basically our notification system that's sent out. Next slide, please, Christine. Oh, I can do it too, right? Next. So we have two notifications that are going out. So the first notification, based on the late-gated accounts and addresses, is triggered at T plus 100 in the new epoch. We are looking at the number of blocks produced, the amount delegated to a node, and we do the calculation, one for foundation and one for O1 Lab. So two notifications are sent out per account from each organization. And then we do the same thing at T plus 3500 on the same epoch. And we look at the payments received for the payment obligations that we sent out in the beginning of the epoch. And next slide. And yeah, so right now the delegations are 1-to-1. So we basically look at the payments received from the delegating addresses from O1 Labs and the foundation. So that's one key point to highlight. Since we have the full amount delegation, that's basically what we are tracking for everybody's information. So we need to receive the payments back to the same address that was delegated. And that's basically high level what we are doing. And then what is next for us is to work on the new uptime tracker, which is going off of the, if I'm not spilling the beans, Snark workers. So that's basically what's coming up next. And we also have support and investigation to do for the performance and the uptime data and any kind of disputes that may come up as a result of the payment calculations. And one point to highlight here, if I forgot to mention, is yeah, we do keep a balance per epoch too. So yeah, we have that balance behind the scene that we keep track of. for the payments that we have received. So if any node falls behind, we have that balance and can go up or down. If there's overpayment, we also know that and can keep track of that, and we can adjust in the next epoch. So that's also one thing that the foundation would look at for the next round of delegation. And yeah, that's all we're working on.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Bezad. The work that your team is doing is crucial in keeping the delegation program running, so we really appreciate the work. All right, and then next up is, yeah, Zero Knowledge Validator. Very excited about this too. Hi, Susanna.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Susanna from the Zero Knowledge Validator. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the Mina VRF-rs that Kobe Gerken and Chris Lynn made as part of ZK Validator's contribution to Mina. So first, I want to explain the motivation for making the tool. So in Mina, there's 7,140 slots in an epoch, and a block producer has an opportunity to create a block in a slot dependent on their value, the value of their VRF in that slot. So there can be cases where no block producers have a VRF above the threshold to produce a block. There could be one block producer with a VRF above the threshold, or there could be multiple. So in the case of the top decision tree, you can see this is where there were no blocks made in a given slot. But in the case where your VRF was above a threshold value, so you had the opportunity to produce a block, you'd want to understand why you didn't win the block in this slot. So this could be because your block producer was online, but you actually produced a block too late to make it into the slot. If you didn't produce it too late, but the block was lost, in this case, which is shown in yellow, it's not always clear what the reason for this is. So that's not going to be the focus of the tool to consider the cases shown in yellow, but to focus more on the orange and red ones. Or if you had an opportunity to produce a block, but you didn't have a block produced in the slot, it could be because your producer was offline. So the second decision tree is showing the case where a block is added to the slot. So obviously the best case scenario for a block producer is that you win this block. However, you might not win the block. So you'd want to understand why you didn't win the block, especially if your VRF's above the threshold to produce a block in that slot. So it could be that the block you produced was the incorrect height. So you're out of sync with the network. So this is something you could improve on. Or if the block you produced was the right height, and you had a better VRF than other block producers, but the block you produced was produced too late, you could also improve upon that. But then there's also the case where your block producer wasn't online for that slot and you just didn't produce a block, even though your VRF gave you the opportunity to produce a block in that slot. So the next slide, please. So then this brings me on to the use cases for the Mina VRF-rs. So you can use it to know in advance which slots you'll be able to produce a block for in that epoch. You can use it to understand how well your block's performing, so how many blocks you're winning based on how many you'd expect to win in that epoch. And then to understand why you've lost blocks in an epoch that you could have produced and you could have won. So to give you a better idea of how well you're performing. Next slide. So then here shows an output of the tool for ZK Validator on epoch 7 in Mina. So here you can see that we had 72 opportunities to produce a block in this epoch, and we won 38 of those blocks. So that's the case that was in green in the two previous slides. And we lost 33 blocks, but this was the cases shown in yellow, which it's not always clear exactly why you lost the block. And there was one case where we missed a slot, and the reason we missed it is because we produced a block too late. So this has given us more insight into how our block producer is performing. Next slide. So the future plans for the Mina VRF-rs is so currently you can run the tool at the start of the epoch to see all the slots you can produce in. So in the future, you'll be able to run the tool and see the slots in epoch before the current epoch, which slots you have that you can produce in. We're also going to implement the whole operation in Rust to optimize the tool. And we also want more block producers to use the tool so that we can collate data, publicize results, and build a better understanding of the cases where there's the missed blocks, so the cases in red and orange. And maybe this will help block producers uncover kind of local issues with their block producer, or it could uncover maybe some larger scale issues. And of course, if you want to support ZK Validator further, then feel free to delegate to our block producer. And any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Susanna. And thank you for your team for building this. We get this question so often from also users who are trying to select a validator in a community. We have over 200. So people are like, how is everyone performing, and how do I pick the right validator? And I believe that this tool would be very helpful in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know,
yeah.
Please
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say longer term, based on, you know, collecting more data, I hope that we can put this in like a dashboard format, so you don't have to be like a sole user of the tool, but the idea of collating data and displaying it for a wider audience.
I think that would be so helpful. A lot of members would be so grateful for that. Thank you so much for this educative session.
Thank you.
And then the last one is Pete. He built a very fun new website.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you, Pete.
All right, great. Okay. Yeah, I just, I'm Pete. I'm just come to talk about the community website, minacrypto.com. I'll just give you a brief history. We wanted to build a community website that could do something a bit different than the official website. So where people could get all the latest news, videos, all those kinds of things. Technical analysis. We've also got competitions on there. There's information on staking. One of the things we really want to do is make it easy to understand. So I noticed before a lot of crypto websites are quite difficult to understand. So one of the things important to us is try to make it as clear as possible, and try and get rid of as much jargon as we can, but still educating people about how these things work. So yeah, we've one of the things I liked about the Mina project originally, apart from the tech, was they had good values. They're their curiosity, openness, respect, and excellence. I think that's really important that we follow those as well. And we've got a couple of we've added a couple of our own as well: transparency, trust, and neutrality. So when we run the website, we'd like to follow all those values as well. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we've got lots of things coming up in the future. I just want to quickly talk about a couple of things we're working on at the moment. First one is a snaps directory. I know some people have been talking about these are on the way. What we want to be able to do on minacrypto.com is for people to get these into a directory, so people can we can put all the information on there. We can link to the websites. We also want to try and set up some kind of a review section so we can, prioritize the ones that are working really well. And if we can also help the community testing these apps as well, that could be a really good thing if we can debug them and try and get the community involved with testing them. That would be great. We've got lots of guest writers who are going to be working on the website, regular contributors. We've got lots of interviews on there. I'm sure everybody here today will be hopefully at some point happy to talk to us and share their knowledge to the community. So yeah, we've got lots of more things to come, but that's about it for now. If you want to go to the last slide, this is just a bit of information. If anybody wants to get involved with the website, you can do it various ways. You can follow us on Twitter. We're starting to get really good engagement with the community there, and it's growing all the time. We've also got a free email subscription news service. So if you sign up to that, you'll get twice a week, you'll get a breakdown of all the latest news from Mina. We've got obviously email address there, and something that's quite popular at the moment is we've got a competition to win some Mina hats and socks. So a lot of people have been entering that competition, but there's still time to do that. So that's about it, I think.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you and your team for building this website. There's really great content on there, and it's also very up to date. Very excited about the new work that's coming up too.
Yeah, I think this it's just the start, really. I think it will develop, organically and go in lots of different directions.
Amazing. Excited to see where it will go. And then we have a few minutes left for questions. Let's see. First one from Petmaneben. I'm sorry. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hi team. Any tentative date or timeline for the mainnet launch with snaps? Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, as mentioned in the O1 Labs update, the testnet launch will be in November, and I will say that the complexity of launching snaps without impacting the stability of mainnet is what we're trying to mitigate, and so it could potentially take quite a long time to get to that through that stabilization phase on the testnet before we move into mainnet. So there's no clear timeline on it yet. We're working through the plans and sort of what it would take to certify that the testnet is ready to graduate to mainnet. It'll be similar to the process of anyone who was here for it, of the initial mainnet launch, of sort of certifying our testnet release and then moving up and redeploying on mainnet.
Thanks, Andrew. And that was a great question, Padmanabhan. I'm sure when the time comes, we'll also share some more detailed updates about it. And also, if you would be part of this testnet, being part of making snaps possible on mainnet, yeah, you're also very welcome to join the testnet. All right, next one. Any problem the team is facing with building snaps tools? I think this is also for Andrew. Maybe some way to think about this question is also, is there any way, well, okay, are there any problems? And maybe a follow-up question, is there any way how the community can help?
I think we're getting to that phase. We're right now trying to, we're running these workshops, which are sort of invitation only, to just get feedback from specific people that we want are designed to sort of pass their expectations and meet their expectations. But when we're through that sort of design phase and we know that what we have will be similar to what we intend to launch with, we'll also be sharing some more announcements and getting all of the JavaScript and TypeScript engineers in the community on board with, you know, trying their first snap and using our tooling. And the feedback that comes from that, I think, is going to be the most valuable thing you can provide. So we'll be releasing that fairly soon, as soon as we're confident in it, and we're excited for you all to try it out.
Thanks, Andrew. And then the last question, any incentivized program for community coming with testnet? I think I'll recommend everyone to stay tuned. Yeah, when new incentive programs or community programs launch, we'll make sure that we'll announce it and let everyone know. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I got maybe Jason from O1 Labs can tell us a bit more about Snap tools too. Oh, Jason, you're here. Cool. Please go ahead.
I just had to rejoin as a panelist, so that I could answer that too. The Snaps tools are going great. So as part of building Snaps, there are a whole bunch of different tools to be built, like many separate ones. But we have a very clear idea of what those are, and a pretty clear roadmap of what we need to do. So now it's just a matter of taking some time to execute. And like Andrew said, we're really hesitant to give a timeline, but he mentioned like we're hoping to get stuff on to testnet sometime in November, hopefully, so that we can really prove it out and make sure everything's working as expected and reliably. And then we give that some time to test out before moving on to a final release.
And Jason, you think we'll have something to share on the developing a Snap side before November so that people can be playing around with it? Because that doesn't really require a network, correct? Is it?
Possibly. This is TBD. Yes. So
TBD.
We're also working on a revamp of our docs because we think that's going to be really important. We know we can do much better with our docs, and so we want to launch with really good docs regarding snaps. So yeah, let's just say TBD, but yeah, no, we're working on a lot of that. I don't want to make promises on that at the moment. We haven't really planned to do that, but we could. And we did do a workshop recently with some participants to get some feedback on our tools. And we have a very clear idea of what we need to execute on. So right now, it's just a matter of taking some time to get back to the code and start advancing what we know. And then further on, so like maybe a month out, we would be interested in potentially doing one or more of those workshops again to continue getting feedback like that. But then, yeah, so TBD on when it would make its way to the docs and be available to play with.
Sounds good. Yeah. Once it's fleshed out enough and once we make it clear what people should be doing and how they can accomplish it with snaps in the docs, then we'll be sharing.
Cool, amazing. Thank you, Andrew and Jason, for sharing the updates. I see also a lot of excitement in the chat about snaps. And I think we're at time. So I want to thank everyone again for joining, and especially the speakers for sharing their updates. So really appreciate Andrew, Elizabeth, Bazat, Susanna, and Pete for joining today and speaking, and Jason too for sharing his update. It's thanks to everyone in the community that Mina's ecosystem is starting to thrive. So if you've built something and you would like to share it during this Mina ecosystem update session too, then feel free to fill out the survey that should be in the description of the YouTube video. And yeah, and hopefully we'll have you speak here in this session next time. All right. Well, I want to wish everyone a great day. Thank you for joining. And for the Zoom participants, when you leave the session, there will be a survey that can give us some feedback if this session is helpful and if you like it, and it will help us improve. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we hope to see you again next time.